The Pogues are back, and the first part of Outer Banks 4 is an intense ride we can't get over. However, the first look at part 2 is even crazier than we've seen. Outer Banks Season 4 started by filling in the time gap of what the Pogues have been up to, which we never saw at the end of Outer Banks 3. It was a crazy turn of events, and the Pogues went from being broke and rich for a short while to going broke again. It appears the Pogues will always have that about them, which is one of the things that separates them from the kooks. However, it got even crazier as money became the least of their worries when Wes Jenrette hired them to find the amulet. But things turned out to be even more profound than that with everything they unraveled, and it will only get even more enthralling. As soon as the Pogues met Wes Jenrette and his son-in-law Chandler Groff, it was apparent something was off, starting from their spooky building. Then Chandler seemed interested in JJ, which gave away the idea that there was more to him. To make matters worse, there is the curse issue, which Wes first told them about before giving them the assignment. However, the crazy twist at the end was unexpected, as we now know that JJ is Wes's grandson, which will change everything for the second part of the season and JJ. For the longest time, JJ has felt unloved, which is one of the reasons he can be very reckless and act before thinking most of the time, which has affected the Pogues a lot. Also, his intense father issues continue to sink him, and we see history repeating itself when he has to help his estranged father escape again. But after finding out the man he has always called dad isn't directly related to him, he's going to be an even more mess as he tries to find out more about his real origin, especially his mother Larissa, who passed away on the Albatross. So in part 2, the Pogues have a lot more to do, which has to do with discovering more about what Wes wanted to tell JJ. However, it will take more work than that because the second part of part 2 might also turn dark. Although the Pogues found it unbelievable that a curse was fighting Wes and his family by getting rid of them one after the other, there could be some truth about it, seeing the weird signs and storms he saw before passing away. So if the story about ghosts and curses happens to be accurate, JJ might be in great danger in part 2, seeing that he's a descendant of the affected family. Although it's wild to think that JJ might pass away just like the people before him, some signs show season 4 part 2 might end up here, as there are rumors that Rudy Pankow, who portrays the character, will be exiting the show after season 4. So unaliving him using this storyline might be one of the ways to go about it. Interestingly, the show and fans might never recover if an exciting character like JJ passes away, so there might be other ways around it without getting that far. The Pogues always find a solution to every one of their problems, even if they get into more problems afterward. So finding out more about the curse or whatever might be responsible for the losses in Wes' family will solve many things. The first look gets even better because the biggest suspect connected to Wes's situation, aside from the Pogues, is the son-in-law, Chandler. At the end of episode 5, we could see him and Hollis having a wicked grin and evil air around them, and there are signs that Wes was targeted and didn't have a heart attack as presumed. So that means Chandler is a lot more dangerous and might be the biggest villain of season 4, who will ruin things further for the Pogues. In part 2, we will get to know more about this man and the evil things he has done. However, there will be a lot of conflict because he's also JJ's father. JJ has never experienced fatherly love, and he might be forced to dissuade the rest of the gang from going after Chandler, which would have terrible outcomes. While JJ might reunite with his long-lost father in part 2, another big reunion might happen between the estranged siblings, Rafe and Sarah. Before everything turned upside down, the Camerons were like a lovely kook family until Sarah discovered her dad wasn't all he seemed. Rafe and Sarah also had sad and outrageous encounters since she joined the Pogues and the treasure hunting started. However, in part 1, they are both beginning to calm down some more and have started making reconcilable glances at each other. It is also fascinating that Rafe mentioned that he plans to make up with Sarah while remembering their dad telling them to watch out for each other. Although it won't be straightforward, it's the first step fans can look up to for the Camerons because they've lost a lot, and it would be sad if they lose each other completely too. During the crazy chaos that sent hearts racing in this first part of season 4, Terrence unfortunately became deceased, and even though the Pogues weren't responsible, they were directly involved. The Pogues have always been involved in the demise of people one way or the other, and they are still on the suspect list for Wes's passing away and other closely related situations where people have been unalived. So if Sheriff Shoop could get wind of the Pogues being involved in Terrence's demise, especially if his body washes ashore, then part 2 would be more than treasure hunting and happy reunions. It's obvious Hollis is using Rafe for the same reason Chandler is involved with the Pogues, as they both have the same end goal, but the whole drama has also mixed up Rafe's Pogue girlfriend Sophia, and Rafe won't take it lightly once he finds out Sophia worked with Hollis to get him involved. Rafe is already going through a lot of mental workload where he's sad about his father, but also making sure things still turn out well for him, and he would be furious at Sophia that he might break up with her or hurt her family for revenge. Seeing as Sophia is also a Pogue, Rafe might get to hate them even more for always finding a way to mess up his life, and this could lead to Sophia joining the Pogues in part 2 as she's more like them than the kooks she hangs out with. In the past seasons, the Pogues usually got the upper hand in finding information and locating treasures. However, things have switched up on them fast, with how the other dangerous gang keeps sabotaging their efforts. Right from when they deep dived and discovered they weren't alone till the end, when the brutal gang had already found some of the things they were out to get in Charleston, it would be an even bigger struggle to get their hands on anything in the second part. But firstly, these new gang affiliations and why they seem so interested in the same things the Pogues are after will all be exposed. And even though Pope and Sarah couldn't find anything after getting into the church's crypt, John B. appears to have seen a big clue they've all been searching for. So there will be a significant discovery, as the second part of season 4 will be mind-wrenching. But then the Pogues are far from safety, because as they go after treasures, much more comes after them, which will all be too much to bear. Despite having a lot of information and danger dumped on them all at once, it doesn't change the fact that the Pogues are also in danger of their finances. They still have many bills to pay regarding the change of zoning, which they have to sort out, and Wes couldn't pay them the money they could have used before he passed away. So there will be so many struggles in part 2 that the treasure hunt will intensify as they try to sort out their heavy bills. The characters are now in a more balanced situation, and it's obvious there's less romance in the first part, but Kiara and JJ are now in a more stable relationship. Sarah and John B are still going strong as well, while Pope and Cleo's situation is unclear. However, with part 2 getting out soon, there might be less romance featured in this season, as the focus has drastically shifted than it was in the past. Also, their parents are now featured less, especially Kiara's parents. She doesn't show any interest in getting back with them soon, as her parents already told her they needed to take a break due to her rebelliousness. So part 2 will feature fewer moments with the parents, as there are now more dramatic situations to deal with.